only improve our situation in our country by fighting to liberate ourselves.
I'm a warrior with knowledge of the past, with the consciousness.
The exploitative, racially and culturally co-opted Caucasian power structure.
Aotearoa is my name.
CIA and FBI, their noses pressed against our window pane, ears glued to our telephone. Why won't they leave us alone?
I mean, it's my world.
We can receive no justice in the courtroom of the white man.
I'm actually a present sent to you by your ancestors.
Bottom line, like I said, deal with freedom, justice, equality.
Wars and rumors of war.
I mean, it's my world.
Aotearoa is my name. I'm a fighter for the cause of my people's freedom.
Ka whawhai tonu mātū, ake. Special guest today joining me in the studio, the one and only Nick Bollinger. Well, let me check that mic.
Check. Have you got me on? Can you hear me?
That's that one. Yeah.
Okay. Kia ora, Dean.
Well,
thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I've known Nick, man. He did a story on Upper Hutt Posse back in '89 for the listener. Yeah.
33 years ago.
But people, what I'm playing right now is the piano solo, which I played some 17 years ago. I just sat down one day at got a keyboard plugged into Reason, that software, and just felt like playing something on the piano. And I just played this. And I thought, man, I got to do something with that one day. And it's taken a while. It's on the new album. And so I'm just playing it as music underneath here. But what I'm going to ask my special guest to do, Nick, is read the press release. I already did that to you a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, well, look, thanks for having us here, because we're going to sort of turn the tables a bit, aren't we? You've got me as a guest to interview you on your show.
Yeah.
But I'm so privileged to do this because, well, as you say, I've been listening to your music and actually writing about what you do for 33 years.
Yeah.
And I've been looking forward to this album for a long time, and it's been great to immerse myself in it just over the last week or so. And I've got lots of questions I want to ask you. But look, just to fill people in, HAU, it's the 8th studio album by UHP, formerly known as Upper Hutt Posse.
Well, not actually formally. We're still Upper Hutt Posse. We're just using UHP.
Right.
But there's a tendency to say formally, you know.
Yeah. But it's punchy, isn't it, the three-letter initialism?
And how do you say UHP? Up, man, we're up.
Well, it is. It's a lot of this album is very up, and I want to talk to you about that too. But the title, HAU, translates as breath, air, vital essence. It's a double album incorporating 7 dub versions and 6 instrumentals of the 13 songs. And it was released digitally online on the 1st of May. And there's going to be a very limited vinyl release coming up in June and July.
Mm-hmm.
And it was recorded at Matakahi Studios by long-time frontman, lead composer, Dean Hapata, Te Kupu. He's joined on vocals by people who you'll remember if you've been following the group right from the beginning, Blue Dread and MC Wire. And your youngest daughter is also on this as well.
Yes.
I could hear her in quite a few places. I was going to ask you about that as well.
13 at the date of recording it, yeah.
It's great hearing those, real young you can tell it's a young voice, but very tuneful and just, it's like there's several generations in this record.
Yeah.
Guesting as vocalists on one song each are Brannigan Carr and King Homeboy, who a lot of you will know. The mix setup was by Jason Erskine, mastered by Mike Gibson, who always makes everything sound fantastic, and this is no exception. And you've got your core group, which I was going to ask you, you play a huge number of instruments on this, everything from keyboards, piano that we've just been hearing, synthesizers, saxophone, guitars, percussion. You've also got Earl Robertson on drums, who's... ever since he arrived in this country, he's played with, so many people.
Arrived with the Chills.
Yeah.
And now he's probably with a few bands, but Reb Fountain, main group he's with at the moment, I think. I don't know if it's the main group, because he's with us.
And you've got Jeff Henderson on saxophones, and he brings another whole dimension, the sort of jazz dimension to the music. Who else? You've got Patrick Bleakley on double bass. On some of it. Rubendas Gonzalez on drums as well. And Ricky Gooch, the great Ricky Gooch on drums.
Yeah.
So you've got these three different percussive personalities there. Tell us, who else have you got? There's lots of people here, hey?
I'll just carry on with the press release. Leo Coghini on keyboards. Nigel Patterson, trumpet. Chris Fox, trombone. And Chris Fox is the brother of Roger Fox, who everyone knows. And
trombone-playing family.
Yeah. Rachel Keel-Taylor on percussion.
Oh, yeah, this great tambourine. Don't underestimate the tambourine.
She's a champ. I've seen her. I live out at Raumati Beach, and she's in Raumati South. Well, I was living there for many years, now in town. And, man, I'd go to gigs and, what they hold in the Raumati South down there, and, man, she's on those tambourines. I'm thinking, man, I got to get her. She's got a rhythm there. And Janet Holborough and her sister Shona.
Yeah.
Now Shona Jonas. Shona on violin and Janet on cello. And DJ Curb One on the turntables. Yeah.
And how do you know the Holborough sisters? Because I know them from Paikakariki.
Well, that's it. Paikakariki.
Yeah.
Go to parties there, whatever, and gigs, and But
they're they come as a string section, don't they? They're like violin and cello.
And again, I was like, I want strings, and I'm like, well, I know them from round the way from there in Pycock, so I just contacted them. Hey, and they're keen, like hell yeah.
So is that how most of the musicians came to be playing on this record?
Yeah, I just approach people. I've never been afraid of that, and like Patrick Bleakley on the double bass. Now, I'd seen him play a few gigs, and I had this piano that you've just heard playing, and I'm like, I need a drummer to do something on this, or maybe I need a bass. And it actually ended out that I needed a bass player, and I seen him, and I says, hey, I got a piano for you to play to, It's just piano, solo piano, me playing. And he goes, yeah. And then he came around home, and then before he did, he was saying, I'm not so good at, just making up this. It's something like that. And I was thinking, Bush, you know what you're doing. But I felt, because I'd seen him playing jazz, and it seemed like, he's just going, he knows he's going off where he feels like going.
Yeah.
He's not struck to the music, like he has to play these notes to that particular chord or whatnot. So this is the person I need. And what happened, he came out to the studio, put on the headphones, got the mic in front of the bass, go for it, and recorded, and he just did one take, and I was like, that's good. Let's do another one. And he just did 2 takes, and then later in the studio, I'm like, right, I'll put one to the left and one to the right. And that was it. Yeah.
So you can hear the 2 basses on that track.
Yeah. They're just single takes, and I haven't, maybe I cut a little bit in some place, but I think I just left the whole bass lines going in there.
Wow.
Yeah, and man, it's just meant to come. And then,
so Patrick was the first person you added to that track.
Yeah.
But then you kept building it up, didn't you?
Yeah, well,
You've got Ricky Gooch on drums on that one too.
Ricky came last, actually.
Wow.
Because before that, I was like, okay, I'm going to have a go with the saxophone. And I, got in a few notes here and there.
I can hear them.
And then I'm going to get in the guitar. So I pulled in the guitar, then I got in the synth and put in some synth notes, and there's some sort of electronica things going on in there. I says, need some of that. And then I had it so it had built itself up quite substantially, I guess, but subtly in some kind of way. And then I was like, okay, drums. And Ricky, I'd been like, got it. Ricky had drummed for us at gigs, and I'd seen him play jazz stuff and that. And I was at a gig at the Pyramid Club, and it was just him on drums and some other sounds, and Jeff on horn. And I was like, man, Ricky, he's the man to drum for this. And as soon as I gave it to him, and he was like, oh, yeah. He loved it. And then he got it. He did 3 takes, and all 3 of them, I was like, damn, they're all great, outstanding. Which one do I use? And so what I did is I've mixed all 3. Like I've gone from one into another, and got there with it.
So then you had your track. Did you put the vocal on last?
Yeah.
We're talking about the song called Deficit of Love, which is what it ended up being. Was that the last thing that came? Was that lyric?
Yes, definitely the lyric. And I was actually not bothered about doing any lyrics with it. I was like, this is it. Just this music. Wow. Yes. There's no rap band I've ever heard of. Or band that's, started as a rap reggae band that can do music like this. Wow, this is UHP. And so I was like, that's where I always want to be, doing stuff no one else is doing, and just unique. But then I actually thought of something that I'd written back in 1993 for a short-lived magazine called Stamp in Auckland, who was, Mark Amery was the editor of that. It was short-lived, but I had a column in it. And in that, I wrote this piece. And I was thinking, man, I've always wanted to put this to music. This sounds like it should go on this. And so I sort of started reading it over it. And, it just came. It's changed, of course, from what the original was. But
that was the basis of it.
Yeah, that's the basis of it.
Yeah.
So, I'm digging things out. So that's from 93.
Well, in a way, we're dropping people straight into the most abstract part of the album, in a sense. But I think we should. There's so many other styles on here, but I think we should listen to it, and then we can talk about some of the other stuff.
Yeah, let's do that.
There's an abundance of life in the rich souls of the indigenous. The genocidal death hand, dealt them by degenerate colonizers, offends decency. Throughout the ages, like so it has been, on the planet named Earth by the speakers of one of its languages, by the 2-legged inhabitants who walk upright. There's subjugation masquerading as law, where justice finds no abode, whilst merciless justification of penalties imposed upon natives, and conversely, undue privileges bestowed upon settlers are the order of the day in colonial empires where free will is circumscribed by 2-faced rules and regulations enforced by brutal beasts for whom torture and all forms of horror are acceptable. Savagery determines who wins wars on this bedeviled planet. Unchanged in millennia, inflicted with insanity, often regressive, unethical. There's wanton acts of terror committed by lone wolf murderers and lone wolf nations that shield the collective malevolence. and tyrants go, but the tyranny of the masses lurks constantly. Curse not the soldier, loathe rather the legalized miscreants wielding control over where and when wars and propaganda appear. The melanin rich have found themselves victims of uncultured brutes whose wealth is measured in assets and currency rather than generosity. Differences divide and separate rather than bond and unify. Fraternity is shattered. Civility is accosted by chauvinist, deranged egotists overflowing with heinousness. The moral conscience is perturbed, suffering setbacks. Hope is promoted as a valid response to intolerable injustice, though it's scarcely conducive to remedying wrong. Prayer is touted as worthwhile activity to cure great tribulations. Yet genocide, war, famine, disease, pollution, oppression cease not. There's a deficit of love, a dearth of decency, a callous disregard for the well-being of others, deep-seated jealousy, woefully widespread among the oppressors. Through it all, there's brilliant souls of conscience persevering, cherished, nurtured in realms unknown by the perpetrators of discord.
Okay, that was Deficit of Love from new Upper Hutt Posse UHP album, HAU. I'm Nick Bollinger. I'm the guest of Dean Huffiter this afternoon, and I'm here to interview him.
Te Kupu na Te Kupu, yeah.
So we're getting to grips with this new album, the 8th UHP album.
Yes.
And I think it's the richest and most deeply varied musical collection you've done.
Yes,
it
I
covers
agree.
so many bases, from ska to reggae to funkadelica to soul to what I call free jazz, which is what we've just been listening to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you've always got a lot of attention for your lyrics, and justly so, because they're very powerful. But people, I think, sometimes take for granted or overlook your role as a musician, and you've played a huge musical role in this record. The number of instruments that you play on it, for one thing. You were playing the piano and some saxophone on that last track.
And guitar.
And
yes.
guitar.
Well, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that too. When we started as a band, people were like, well, they're rappers when we became nationally known, and rappers aren't musicians, and rappers are not music, and they, so that was the thought around, people were saying. But I was like, hey, wait a minute, we started as a 4-piece reggae band, we can actually play instruments. But more than that, I couldn't play, everything I could then. I've grown as a musician, as a lyricist, as a songwriter, as a producer, as everything, And so, man, I listen to, I have a song, I want something done on it. Man, just through the decades, chasing around musicians, it's not a thing I want to be doing, But I've chased around people like, hey, man, I want to get you on this and that. But it struck me also like, I'll just learn how to play that, especially with the bass. I'm playing bass on 11 of the 13 songs, and my brother, he's not playing any instruments on this album. And so I was sort of, just to be able to play bass, I was like, man, great. And we did a gig in 2019, and I fronted the band with bass and lyrics, and it felt fantastic. I love it. But it's easier to play a guitar and do lyrics, especially rap lyrics, than a bass. You try and play a bass line and rap over it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it depends on the bass line, because I can actually play the bass line of Preeach and rap it, which years ago I wouldn't have even considered.
Well, Preeach is the track that opens the album, and I was going to ask you about that one because I think we should hear it in a minute, but it's such a great opener. It's like, well, it reminds me, it's a bit like a funkadelic kind of feel, you know. It's really solid. It's got horns, or it's got Jeff Henderson playing, I think, a baritone saxophone. Lots of gnarly guitar, which is you, I gather.
Yeah, that's me.
It's great. And Earl Robertson playing fantastic drum part. Why did you open with this one? It feels like a great opener, but I was just wondering.
That, man, just the track order and the first song on the album for me has always been, I love the space that you are in when you're actually finished an album and you haven't decided, because I've never decided, but, I've gone through and think this would be a good song to start the album, or maybe this one. But, man, just being in that space of selecting the song to go, this is the first song, I reckon that is so important. And the album name, the name of the album, for a long time, the working title was called Preeach to the Converted, because I've always liked that, especially for activism and activists. And activists themselves have said for so many years, for decades, we just need to get more people aware, like we're aware of the corruption that goes on in the world. We need more people. And I'm thinking, I don't know about that. And then after doing Ngā Tahi Know the Links and finishing that, travelling around the world, talking with activists, 22 countries, and then I'm thinking, I don't know about that at all. I think activists need to celebrate ourselves and just invigorate ourselves. And once we, you can look at it like this, the public's looking over there and say, man, those guys look cool. They're having a good time. They're all happy. What are they? They're activists. They're land activists. They fight against racism. They fight against corruption. But look at that. Man, I want a piece of that. And that's what I feel like, that's what Preeach to the Converted means, or also singing to the choir. But it's always, people it's derisive.
They put it in a negative sense, but you've turned it around and said, actually, that's a positive, that can be a very positive thing.
Yeah.
And that track feels like that, Preeach. I mean, it's, there's some anger in there, but you're celebrating as well. It feels very upbeat and upful, positive.
And I had this music, which I'd also programmed in Reason some years ago, 17 or so years ago, for Preeach. And I was like, okay, yeah. I went in the studio and had this electronicus type music that's still in there. And Earl Robertson, I says, just drum to that. Drum to that, man. I got in the studio and he drummed, and I was like, yep, that's the beat. But he drummed for 6 minutes to it. Then I'm like, I'm cutting that up big time. and so I did. That's why, some drummer, I figured that a drummer would listen to it and go, damn, there's a lot of drum rolls here and there and this and all that, and I'm like, that's because I cut it up to give it that effect. Just because I like a lot of drum rolls, and just drum rolls are the exciting part of it, right? And then the crash, and so that's how that song came about. And then I got back into my studio and played the bass line in, and then I was like, the guitar, in the past I've called on guitarists to come in, but I'm like, no, I'm playing the guitar on this whole album. But I'm going to play some metal guitar stuff.
You're shredding on this one.
And that's not the type of thing that I do or are known for at all.
No.
But I'm like, I can play these guitar. And, man, if it takes me all week to get this guitar down, I can, because I'll just do another take. But it wasn't like that at all. And I left it raw. I listened to it and I thought, it's got to keep that rawness about it. And then, just...
It reminds me of, that's why I think of the Funkadelic thing, because it's like old Eddie Hazel on those early Parliament Funkadelic records. Well, I think we should... The other thing I was going to point out to people is this includes part of the speech you gave at the New Zealand Music Hall of Fame induction.
Yes.
How did that end up in there? Was that going to be there right from the beginning, or at what point did you decide to incorporate that?
Well, I did want to use it somewhere on the album. I said, I'm going to use some of that speech in this album. So no, it wasn't it, but it just, this was the tune. Yeah, right, the speech. It can come into this. You know, that me writing an album, this has been a process of years, many years, decades. Even some of the songs have started, but once I start writing the lyrics and getting the songs down, I sleep with them, I live with them. So when I go to, I'll wake up in the morning. Yeah, that's where that belongs. The subconscious working, to bring out that magic, placing things where they should go. And I'm playing that bass line. Oh, it needs to, I might wake up humming the horns for something. And that's why I know, I guess, when I first started, and all musicians probably have this, unless they're like some childhood stars, once you get into it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a musician. If I'm waking up thinking about songs and lyrics popping in my head, must be that's it. So I'm just happy to still be doing this, in my 50s now, 56, and still going and still writing songs and working on them this way with my subconscious and just in my sleep. Yeah.
Sleeping and waking. Well, we should have a listen to this track, the opening track from the new Posse album. This is called Preeach.
Yeah, I will just say to the listeners out there that usually if there's a swear word on an album, well, here, I'm giving you a warning. There's a couple on here. And I've just got to be real to the song for this, so...
Attack upon we the people. Outside the flag and to transmit the message. Simple security, not protect nature. War for material gain is their mantra. Hey, Yankee community, the insurgent. Renegade and brothers and sisters, I love you, but love ain't enough when you join every time. Think and the coward, come to the press up. Constantly controlling public publicity. Preeach. Capitalists and materialists vying for control of the two streams, flying the highways and byways, nooks and crannies of their minds, perverse idiots. Oh, not as it seems. Goes like this. Kafa fight to Numato. Ake, ake, ake. Kafa fight to Numato. Ake, ake, ake. Kafa fight to Numato. The
Preeach.
Preeach.
Did you catch that vocoder in there?
I did.
I've also got a vocoder in there.
There's a lot of stuff going on in there. There's some sounds that I didn't know where they were coming from. What instruments did you play on that? You put your voice through the vocoder, but there's also a lot of guitar. There's the fantastic bass line, which you're playing.
Yeah.
What else are you doing on that one?
Let me have a look at the credits here I've got. Just to remind myself, because I'm like, I think it's something else. Another song. Right. Yeah. Synthesizer, the sequencing, electric bass, electric guitar, bongos, the TR-08 boom.
What's that?
That's the 808 boom. The TR-08 is like a smaller version of the TR-808. Vocoder and vocals, but there's a boom in there. If you listen to it on another system, a big system, it's a boom that's holding down the bottom end. And well, the 808s.
Well, I was going to say
everything nowadays.
But did you have an 808 right at the start of when you did HAU? Did you have an 808 on that?
Well,
it was like the original rhythm machine, wasn't it?
Our manager at the time did, George Hubbard. He'd actually programmed the HAU on an 808. And the night before we were going to go and record the song, he pulled out. And I says, he ain't stopping the recording. I programmed it on the TR-505, which I'm not a fan of the TR-505 drum machine, but that's what's programming Air 2. So, no, we didn't have an 808, but George had an 808, and we did use the 808 live, and he had a 909 after that also, which we helped him get. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you about how things have changed, over 30 plus years. When, in a way, you just didn't have the technology to make a record like this back then, did you? I mean, even if you'd wanted to, to layer this many instruments, have all that going on.
Not at all.
What was Air 2 recorded on? Where did you record it? Was it in a studio? Or?
Yeah, it was at Rise Recording, just on the road there. And I programmed the drums on the TR-505, and all night I was up doing that. And then the bass line is guitar. Is it? Or is it the keyboard, the 808? Not the 808, the Poly 800.
Yeah.
It sounds. It's either the Poly 800. I think it's the Poly 800. Man, there's so many songs, I can't remember them all. But yeah, but MC Wire, he played in the bass line, and then I played in some set keyboard sounds on the Poly 800 as well. DLT just scratched in the scratch.
Yeah.
Blue Dread, well, he just made the sounds, those haka sounds that are in there, and then vocals. That's it.
Yeah.
I wanted to just keep it raw. I'm just thinking if there's anything I've forgotten in there.
That sounds like that was all there was.
It. Yeah.
And how long did it take to record?
Oh, well, a day, I guess.
One day in the studio.
Must have shown up to that studio around 11 or so. I hardly had any sleep. But, I was new to that, being in a studio, and I was thinking, I didn't even think to why don't we just change the studio dates, and George will come around and he'll bring that 808 beat he's got already going on for Air 2, and that's it. I won't have to program it on the 505, which I don't really like that drum machine, but it's the one I had. And no, I didn't think of that. I was like, no, this is it. This is the recording date. It's tomorrow when George pulls
Sessions
out.
booked. Yep.
I don't care. We're doing this. We're doing this song. And for me, it's like it's a dream. I've been wanting to, make a record for years since then, since really childhood. And I was like, this is music, and I've just got to be that committed to we're not going to change the goddamn first recording date. That's not right. what the hell? That sets up bad shit to go on for the rest of your career. Oh, we couldn't make this gig, couldn't make that. Nah, we'll make every gig. And I've said to everyone in the band, that's the rule, man. If you can't make a gig, hey, it's serious. You know, someone's died or something. You can't make it. You know, if your car gets a flat tire, well, how far is it? You can walk the rest of the way. Get a train, bus. You know, just there's no excuses aside from life, dread life situations that happen.
Hey, well, because we were talking about your first recording just then, and about what had happened even earlier than that, because I know you guys had been playing together since, what was it, early 80s, mid 80s, mid 80s?
It was more late 85, really.
Yeah, that's the mid 80s.
We began jamming, but it was here and there, this and that. It wasn't.
And it was a kind of reggae thing mostly then.
Yeah, well, we could play reggae.
Yeah.
No one was afraid of, but I just come from rap was the music, but electro.
Yeah.
And so Planet Rock, rapping over beats like that's what I'm thinking.
Well, I was just thinking there's one song here which harks back to all of that, which is that track, Phenomenal, which is like a kind of tribute to the early days of the Posse in a way. That's how it sounds to me. And it's got some scratching and beatboxing on it. And you name check, Manners Mall and Buffalo Girls and Bobby, body popping and the Smurfs. What's that all about? What are they doing in there?
Now, that's a crew.
That was a crew at the time.
From Wellington City, yeah.
Right.
Newtown.
Yeah, I thought it must be, but I didn't know them.
Yeah. Kinetic Energy also.
Yeah.
Parirua Street Rockers. These are the crews' names I'm calling out. Twilight Thrills. Some of them. It's not all of the crews.
Not all of them, but yeah. That song, that's how it came across to me. Tell me more about that track and what that's all about.
Well, I had the music, and I'd programmed this music again back some 17 years ago, and I was like, man, this is like an electro. This is electro.
It's like an 80s track.
Yeah, electro 80s. This is what I love. All right. And so I already had the music was over a decade old, but then I'm using this for this album, and I pulled in Earl, and I says, right, I want you to drum to this, and this is I want to be able to dance to this like I'm a b-boy. I want to get down on the ground, do a head spin, do a windmill, and it's got to have that feeling for me. But the thing about having the live drums in it, it sort of takes it a little away from that electro, in a sense. Because that was all programmed, 808 things and 909 programmed beats. But I was like, no, I want to use a live drummer. And when you think of hip hop and its inception in the US, New York City, well, they were dancing to funk music with live drums. But by the time hip hop music got here, it was in the early 80s, and we were listening to Planet Rock, the likes of Planet Rock. I just need to mention that song. That's it. And so that was the style.
Yep.
But
you didn't make this totally retro, though. It's like you can tell it's the band now singing about those times. It's looking back, but it's not going all the way back, is it?
No. Well, it was key getting, the live drums going. Yeah. But then I played the bongos on there, and that was like, I've always loved bongos, and I'm like, that's another instrument.
Yeah.
I checked out some cats around, and I've seen, people playing bongos, and I'm like, I'm going to have to start chasing people around for that. Nah, I can play bongos, okay? I'm good enough. And if I can't get it right, I can just do it again and again until I got it feeling right. And, man, so, man, we've got a song which is going to be on our next album, actually, of an early Upper Posse jam, on which I'm playing bongos. And this is from 80, 87, 88, and just recorded in my brother's room. And I'm thinking, I've been playing, I used to take the bongo drum everywhere and jam around with it, but never like live. But for this album, and just just been a whole lot more confident musically myself, you know. Now I'm like, I'll play it because I know what I want. I know how I want it to sound, and I can manage these two congas. So let's see what happens.
And you've got your own studio set up. I mean, you can spend as long there as you like doing this. You're not paying by the hour anymore to record in somebody else's studio.
Exactly. And that's my dream from young, was always to have my own recording studio. Yeah. And now I have had a recording studio at home since 98, but it's not as good as the studio I've got now. Well, the gear, I guess.
So do you just keep adding to it? You just keep getting things?
Yeah, well, you get new
new toys?
Computers, and yeah. And, yeah, well, I got a drum kit now, and congas, bongos, and, man, the keyboards I want. Got a piano, had a piano in my house for decades, and yeah,
you got a big enough room for all those instruments?
Well, not really, but yeah, it's pretty squash. But I'm building a new recording studio on the slope. My house is on the top of a hill. There's a slope, then I've got a backyard down the bottom. But I'm building the studio. It's happening. I got the whole foundation down, then I pulled in a builder to help me put the walls and roof up.
Excellent.
And now I'm just doing the inside, and I'm just like, my daughter's like, Dad, I want that room because it's under the trees. I'm gonna go, no, that's my heaven. That's it. That's all I want. Whatever happens in the world, I don't need or want for anything. I'll be going in there,
just making music,
but writing my book and doing videos, making videos. But that's my zone. I love
your
it.
Workspace. It's your creative space.
Because it reminds me of where we grew up in Māori Bank. We had this little bit of native bush right by to the east of our house. And when I was young, like 7, 8, 6, I used to just be able to walk up in there, sit on a tree. We had a swinging rope on it. And it was just like, I just loved being in that nature there. And this tree, a mahoe. And it was just a meditation time or something.
Sure, yeah.
Now that I'm older and I'm writing a book, I think back at that time and think, wow, and that's what I've done with the studio. Where I've built it, there's native trees. There's a big rimu there. There's a kauri outside. There's a miro. And, oh, man, I just love it there in that spot. And I've thought for, decades, I've got to build a studio here one day. And I'm doing it now. And wow.
When are you opening? When will you be?
Well, probably a few weeks, perhaps.
So it's that close?
Yeah.
Wow, you've been busy. Building, recording, writing.
Yeah.
Tell us about, this is a bit of a digression, but where's the book at? Because a little while ago you were sort of, hammer down getting the book done. And then you said to me one day, I saw you and you said, no, I've put that aside. I'm finishing the album instead.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what happened. But the book is in 2 parts. But part 1 is pretty much there. And part 1 is my life summarised. And it's kind of like, an introduction also to the rapumentary. And there's 5 chapters, and the 5th chapter in part 1 is an introduction to the rapumentary. But that 5th chapter is now not going to be an introduction. That 5th chapter is going to be in part 2 of the book, which is about the rapumentary. And really, now that I've released this album, and yes, I couldn't do those 2 things at the same time, write a book and write an album and all the lyrics and everything. No, that's, no, there's just not room. But now that the album's out now, I can, for the first time, for a year or over a year, I'm able to actually think about writing the book. And so now I'm thinking about part 2, and I'm thinking, right, I'm getting into it. I'm going to get the studio built, and because I'm going to write in there, and that's it. People won't be, I'll still be doing my radio show, but I don't care. I'm just doing this. I'm going to finish this book. And it just feels so wonderful even to be going into it, because I'm going to be talking about things that are so current for the world right now. Police brutality in particular, but maybe people won't want to hear about it when the book comes out. Oh, we've heard all about that. I says, no, you haven't, because this was from 2000 to 2010, what people are saying. And just to talk about that, and racism is the key topic of this part 2 of the book. And you'll be hearing, people will be reading what people said about it that I asked, in
20 years ago.
22 countries, 20 years ago, what they're saying. They'll find out, well, it's the same people are saying now. It's same as police brutality. And globalisation / colonialism, that's another biggie that's going on and continues to. Imperialism.
Well, you address quite a lot of that on the album too. And some of these songs go back, quite a way now. Yeah. Should we have a listen while we were talking, the one we were talking about, Phenomenal. And then we can work forward and historically from there.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, keep it phenomenal, make it phenomenal. If you're gonna make it phenomenal, keep it phenomenal, make it phenomenal. If you're gonna make it phenomenal, keep it phenomenal, make it phenomenal. There's a beat, can you feel it? On the ground, stop it. There's a beat, good, can you feel it? Get down, stop it. There's a crowd here, get around. Everywhere, shocking you everywhere. Take me, girl, rocking it everywhere, shocking it everywhere, taking it everywhere. Twilight, street, girl. There's a B-boy, the battle's on the ground. There's a B-girl, the battle's on. Get down. This crowd here ain't got skill, gather round. Leave it alone. It's a tasty dick, let's play it sound. It's real hip-hop in your town. Yeah. For the B-boys and B-girls out there, you know who you are when you was breaking in Manners Mall.
In 83, 84.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal from the new Upper Hutt Posse album. And, I'm Nick Bollinger, and I'm the privileged guest here of Te Kupu, who's got me on to interview him about his latest work. And I'm really enjoying listening to it. As I was saying earlier, there's such a range of musical styles here, but it's all knitted together. You know, it doesn't feel like a whole lot of different bands. It's always definitely the same sounds. It's got the same core all the way through it. But you've got everything from tracks like that one, which looks back to, some of those, I suppose, electro. It's got traces of electro and just early hip-hop about it. And then you've got things that are, like funkadelic things. Now, there's also a lot of reggae and ska woven through. And there was one I was going to ask you about, which is like a kind of reggae track. And I was listening to it and I thought, there's something familiar about this. And I realised, it took me a while to realise that I was hearing elements of a tune that I knew, which was a really early Michael Jackson tune.
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
And this is the song you call Soon Come. But I was wondering what the connection with that old Michael Jackson record is.
Yeah, this is an adaptation of Ben, the song Ben.
If you remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, well, some years ago, probably around 18 years ago again, I thought, man, I'm going to do a reggae version of Ben, Kei Roti Te Reo Māori. And I applied to TMP for some funding and see how it goes. And so I did do that, but I don't actually know if I actually applied for the money. Because I was like, who's going to sing this? I ain't singing that. I'll get my daughter to sing it or something. So I've had that music lying around, in the computer for so long. And when this album arrives, the time for it to be made, I was thinking, oh man, I'm pulling that out and I'm going to change the lyrics. And and this is what it's become. And
it's a new song.
the drums on this, that's Ruben Gonzalez. He's also a DJ around town here known as Rudy Bam Bam. And he specialises in boss reggae, ska, that sort of rock steady reggae. He's like, he doesn't want to play any other type of drums, but he does. He plays for other bands, plays other styles. But, most drummers in this country, they go, yeah, man, I can play ska. I'm thinking, everyone can play ska. But when I heard Rudy, I'm like, no, he's playing ska.
Yeah.
That's ska. He's the first actual ska rocksteady drummer I've heard.
He really is.
Yeah, and I was like, wow. And I was thinking, that's what it is. He's got that swing going on.
Yes.
Because a lot of the reggae in this country is very stiff. And, previous Up Posse tracks as well. And I'm like, why have we got this? The stiffness to it. It's like haka, it's like very stiff, the reggae. And I was like, but that's not the reggae that the Gladiators.
Sure.
That sort of reggae. And when you listen to the drums, just listen to the drums.
They're swinging.
The drums are swinging like hell.
Yeah.
They're loose, man.
Yeah.
They're loose. But we've, Māori for some reason, I'm talking about, and including Up Posse, we've tightened them up tight. So I wanted to get away from that with these songs. And I was like, man, Rudy's the one. So when we got in the studio, Building 9, which is there in Newtown, Warwick, and I said, I gave him the songs to listen to without drums and with a click track. I says, I just gave him you do it. He goes, yeah. He came in, and as soon as he played that, I was like, wow, that blew me away, his drums, because like, fuck, that's exactly... Aroha mai, it's not meant to be screwing on radio. But I was like, that's exactly what I'm wanting.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of another drummer. I'm not meaning to disrespect any other drummers.
Oh, people have their different strengths. Yeah, but he's your secret scar weapon, isn't he? I mean, how many tracks does he play on this album? About 3 or 4? Maybe?
Four.
Yeah.
Say-Do, Soon Come, Warmonger.
Yep.
And, that's 3.
Maybe it's just...
Counterattack.
Right, which is the other one that I really think of as an old school kind of ska tune with the trombones and everything.
Yeah.
Which we should have a listen to later. But should we have a listen to Soon Come first and see if anyone else recognises the tune?
All right.
soon come. Justice, freedom for all. Tyrants will cry, them system is done. Babylon run, awareness has come. Greedy man, bar.
No matter what them say or do.
Greedy man, crawl.
No matter what them say, them do.
Man fight for peace and harm in our seas. A call from within to dispel the beast. We gonna fight them, yes, we gonna fight them on and on and on and on and on and on. We are the joy of life and liberty. Then bring every burden catastrophe unto the land, the air, the sky, the sea, the bees, the birds, the trees, the health of everything. Soon come. Wickedness a go fall. Soon come. Justice and freedom for all.
When I ever look ahead, true love is everywhere.
Tyrants are fall, Babylon crawl. Greedy man fall, Babylon fall. Wickedness fall, justice for all. Deceivers fall, knowledge for all. Soon come.
Soon come, UHP. Kei te whakarongo koutou ki te kupu nā te kupu ia paraere whā ki te ono. Kei te reo irirangi o te upoko o te ika. Right, I'm here with Nick Bollinger, special guest, special music journalist. And yeah, he's taken us through the album, interviewing me. So yeah, the tables are turned here.
Yeah, it's great hearing that track, which, as I was saying before, has this familiar tune.
Yeah.
But it's got a whole new lyric and a whole new meaning. And there's a very high vocal part that comes up in that, and it's a young-sounding voice, and I just wanted you to tell us who that was, introduce that singer for us.
That's my daughter, Ahure, and she was age 13 at the time that I pulled her into the studio to do that. And yeah, she's 14 now, but she was great. My eldest daughter is living in Australia in her late 20s now, and I was going to get her to sing on the album, and it was like, it just proved a little bit difficult. She had to go in the studio over there and all this sort of carry on. I was like, no, I'll just get Ahure to sing. And yeah, she was great. I've just got total faith or whatever. I don't know if it's faith, but just, yeah, I've heard her sing. You can sing this. I just tell her, you can sing it. I put her in the studio and I go, yeah, no, we'll do that again. Yeah, until we get it. I say, that's it. And then I play it back, and she just takes it like, yeah, easy, like it's nothing. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, she pulled it off fantastically.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. It sounds pretty relaxed. And that's not the only song she's on. There's another sort of reggae type track which I really liked, which I think came out you put out as a single a bit earlier on. Say Do, Don't Do.
Yeah. Say Do, Don't Do People.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that one?
Well, this is a bit of music that I've had for quite a while. The bass lines, they're not my own. They're quite well known, and you'll hear them in songs that are coming out next week, reggae songs, and have been in songs for like the last 30 years. So, but this is the thing with reggae. You can use a reggae bass line. No one's going to say, oh, you stole it. It's like, well, yeah, but so did 5 other musicians. It's, there's classic reggae bass lines people use. And that's the great thing about people aren't trying to say, hey, I come up with that bass line. Man, just what a mess that would be for everyone that uses that bass line to get well.
It's the whole dub concept, isn't it? I mean, people have always been building new songs on top of old ones in reggae.
Sharing, with reggae. But so this bass line I've just had in my head, and I was like, right, I got this. But then there's two bass lines in the song, but the other bass line, that's the bass line it's not so common. But I was like, I'm the first to put these two together. I'm sure of that anyway. People haven't gone from this to that. Because for me, it's like, and I had to sort of, practice big time to be able to sing this with the guitar. Because it just goes up half a step and it just feels a bit funny where to go with the voice. But it sounds completely normal when you're listening to the song. But, yeah, so, and this song took years for me. I've had this music, this bit of music for over a decade. And just, going from this bass line and then bang, then we'll go in okay, we'll do that, and me and Wyatt would play it, and we could just jam it for ages because we just love it, and how just that the shift between the two bass lines is what sounds fantastic to me. But I couldn't get the lyrics for it, and I just said, "Do you really want to love me?" I was using that for a while, and this is a love song. Then I threw them away, like, nah, don't do that. And then Say Do, Don't Do People came into my head one day. And it was just, I remember I was talking to my daughter, and it's either that she'd said she was going to do something and didn't do it or something, but it just, I was like, Say Do, Don't Do People. I'm using that. That's a song title.
It sure is. And that is a type. It's a type of person, a type of behaviour that you've identified.
Yeah. And I was like, but the thing is, it's everybody.
Sure,
I don't know,
we can all be that.
Who hasn't said they're going to do something and not done it?
Yeah.
So everyone's done it, but I don't want it to be just, hard out. Okay, yeah, okay. We're just going to talk about politicians. They get up there saying they're going to do this. They all break their election promises, don't do what they say they were going to do. But hang on a minute. No, I want to talk about people that, I'll call you, which is a bad character trait, especially people in this country. They say, I'll call you. And it's like, they're not going to call you. And why the hell you say you're going to call me? You're not going to call me. And actually, it was actually Earl Robertson when he moved over here, and I linked up with him in, what was that, around 93, 94. He said to me, hey, I meet these people and they say, hey, I'm going to call you. And I've given them my phone number, and they don't call. And I says, man, that's that's just how people are here. Useless.
Slack.
Yeah, just slack, It's a trait. It's a national trait, a character trait of everyone. Yeah, so, people say that, and I think it's a way of saying goodbye even, like, see you later. Or, nice seeing you, I'll call you.
See you around.
Yeah, I'll call you. But why say it? Just don't say it. Because...
Well, you've called everyone out on this one, but it's, in a way, it's... you've sort of called out everybody, it's not you're not being singling out.
I wanted to keep it lighthearted.
It is. It's a lighthearted track, and it contrasts with some of the other ones, but it's a lot of fun. I think we should hear it. Let's have a listen to Say Do, Don't Do People.
Yeah, and the music video, did that with Rongotai Lomas.
Oh, tell us about that. Yeah.
And, that, I shot that in my driveway.
People can find this, by the way.
Blue
this
tarpaulin behind in my driveway. Then I shot my daughter up the top with the blue tarpaulin behind. And then, I did all the filming of me, Ahurei and my brother. But then I just threw it all to Rongotai. I says, mix it up, throw in some things. And I want to put in, free Mumia Abu Jamal and free... what's his name? He's in England right now. Well, Leonard Peltier, but also in England. Man from
Julian
WikiLeaks,
Assange.
Julian Assange. That's right. I just want to put those three up there on a banner, put them in there, and then just the idea of put me behind the bars. Need some animation going on, and have me swinging a golf club, and these types of things.
Well, if people haven't seen this one yet, they can watch it on it's on YouTube and everywhere else. But we'll have a listen to it now anyway.
Say to those two people, vote democracy, voting for a change, but no change we see. Ring, you say you will, I'm waiting and it's still. I've got no time to kill, man, this is no thrill. Ring, you say I do, promise me no lie. Love you, say me true, and until we die. Say could it be? Why can't I not breathe? Police brutality, running rapidly. Caught you in a lie, each and every day. Only be a minute, hours later. To be day, judges will say, rich man go play, poor man must pay. Speak. No more feeble-minded folly every day of every week. Keep your word. Keep your word. Say keep your word. Say to people. Stop running your
Say do, don't do people. That's, man, I got to say, I wrote the song and I'm singing on it, and that's fantastic. I mean, that falsetto singing, and man, I'm just like, this would be an underrated song of the year, you know, but like a lot of Up Posse stuff, because I don't know, we're not as corny as everybody else. That's what I keep saying. But yeah, it took me so long just to get Say Do, Don't Do People. Okay, got that title, got this music. How do I sing it with this music? And man, I sang it one way, left it for 6 months. Nah, that's not it, because I was doing other things. But I'm going to come back to it. Maybe I'll sing it that, and finally it clicked in there. Yeah, and so did the verses. They clicked in there. I was like, ooh.
Well, it's a real melodic song. You know, it's like it's not quite like anything else really, but it's, as you say, it's got those two bass lines that it moves between. I think it's almost like a key change, you know, these two parts of the song. And, it just makes it a really hooky, very sweet track. I really like it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this song here, it should have like 1 million hits or something on Facebook. I don't know if it's even got 1,000 yet, but I don't care. But what I'm thinking about this album, and I said it to my brother, I says, this album, its time will be in 50 years. We won't be around to see people, you know, celebrating this album like, wow, that's fantastic. Because there's just too many haters, and the whole music industry, it's the same as like, Upoko Posse doesn't get invited to any festivals. Hasn't for decades. They don't. They know me. Yeah, I'm going to get up and say something political. Yeah, something. Yes, you're damn right. And so, yeah, I think that they've all been. No, better not get them. They might, you know, that fellow. Oh, he'll say something and upset the punters. And I'm like, yeah, so what?
Oh well, they're missing out because. This album covers so many bases, and it's there's tracks like the one we've just heard, which are, you know, really upbeat songs. There's also some pretty dark stuff, and you've got very different kind of musical ideas going on in those tracks. And there's one I want you to play for us called Culture of Violence, which relates a little bit, I think, to the very first track that we played. It's what I think of as kind of free jazz in a way. It doesn't have a steady backbeat. Everything's moving around.
Yeah.
And you've got Jeff Henderson, the sax player, on there, and you've got Patrick Bleakley playing bass again. And you've got some powerful lyrics over the top. But did this evolve in the same way as that one we started with, the Deficit of Love?
Yeah, and I'll also mention that Shona is on violin there. And I'm jamming in there, throwing in some guitar chords and notes, bits and pieces. But yes, this is also, there's a vibe sound and there's the piano.
Yeah.
I played those into Reason, into the program, but I just played them in. They're just played in.
And that's what you started with? Those were the first sounds that went down?
Because there's that piano bit that plays.
Yeah.
And then I started playing a vibe because I had that piano. I played that piano, and then, all right, I'm going to play this vibe sound. And I just played that in. I think I might have had a click track. I'm not sure if I did or didn't. Can't remember. So long ago. But I do have the Reason program of it. And then at the end, I'm going to go back to piano. And I just played this piano at the end, which is like, I don't know what it is. It sounds like, it's grand. It's the ending. Everyone knows this. It's like a piano sequence that people know. Da, da, da,
Sure. Right at the end of the track, hey?
Yeah, and culture of violence, that's a saying people were talking about the police having a culture of violence some decades ago. And when I heard that, and it was, on mainstream media, national radio talking about, the culture of violence, the police, yes. And I went, man, I love that. It's true. But culture of violence, just that's the song title. I was like, man, I'm using that one day. And so, here we are. I've used it for this. And, we'll talk about...
That was the last thing that went on, the lyric and the vocal?
Yeah. Again, was the last. Yeah, like Deficit of Love. I'm quite sure.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we should have a listen to this track. And it's Earl Robertson on drums on this one?
Yes, Earl, and because when I first met Earl, he says, I'm a jazz drummer, jazz, that's it. And I says, oh, great.
That's interesting because he first came to New Zealand to play with the Chills, didn't he?
Yeah,
which is kind of, I don't know, it's a long way from jazz. But
I've always loved jazz because the jazz drummers, for me, out of all of the drummers, sound the freest.
Sure.
And, a jazz drummer can hold down a rock beat, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know if a rock drummer can play jazz.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah. So, he was... I just knew he'd be right for it, actually. I played down and says, just play some free jazz, man. Just go for it.
Well, let's hear what they all did, because it's a great track.
Culture of violence. You're not a friend. You're just a blue suited servant serving tyrants, attacking people. Peace in a blue dress. You've got a problem. Culture of violence. Police In a courthouse, upholding law that overrides just a problem, a culture of violence. For life, murderer, coward, you are feeble. Serving time. Upholding law that overrides justice. Culture of disposed of, discarded, despised, dejected, demented, deluded, done away with. One bright morning when the ship hits our gone.
It's a wild track. And how did you come up with that ending? Well, it's like this little choir at the end.
Well,
one bright morning.
I thought just then, when I just heard it, is that my Upper Hut Boys choir
I was
coming out of me? I was in the Upper Hut Boys choir for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. Well, I wasn't a fan of it. You know, we didn't sing Michael Jackson songs or nothing, what I was listening to on the radio every night, but yeah.
Well, you made use of it in the last couple of bars of that song.
Yeah, man.
No, it's a wild track. And yes, I was thinking while we were listening to it, there's so many different things going on in there, but nobody's really getting in each other's way. How did you do that? There were a lot of editing involved, a lot of mixing?
Yeah, a lot of editing. And as I said to you, though, so that's like, the producing of it, the mixing, because I've mixed this whole album. And the mixing is, that's got to go, that's staying in, this has got to be louder than that, and that's going left, that's going right. And, yeah.
And you can't start that process until you know you've got everything in there that you're going to work with. Yeah,
and so, like, as I'll mention to the listeners now, that the vocals that I do in there, I used the delay, wasn't added later. Yeah. Nowadays, a lot of delays are added later. I did that. I used the delay on when the vocals went down, and I did about 2, maybe 3 vocal takes. I did them, and I didn't move the vocals from anywhere where they are, but I just pulled out the ones which I was like, nah, this is the one that can go here. And the same with all the other instruments. I didn't move anything anywhere. I just pulled them out.
So you were controlling that delay on your voice while you were doing the vocal?
Yes.
Yeah, so playing it like an instrument.
Because I had to be like, for some reason, in the studio, I was like, I'm not going to put down a vocal, then add a delay to it. When everyone else is playing, just maybe they did a couple of takes. I'm doing that as well, a couple of takes, and I'm going to use this delay though, just to keep with the spirit of the track. And it's actually just right now that I'm talking with you that's, I'm feeling that.
Yeah, It's well. I wanted to hear another one of the sort of what I think of as the funk tracks on the album, which is the one called Solidarity. And I think it's Ricky Gooch again on the drums on this one.
Yeah.
And there's some great trombone, which I think might be Chris Fox.
Yeah.
But,
it's actually a keyboard as well as Chris Fox. I played in those notes,
doubling those parts. Yeah, tell us what inspired this one, Solidarity.
Well, this goes back to 91, following our trip to the USA, Up Posse as guests of the Nation of Islam, which occurred in October, and we also got to New York. And Rongotai Lomas came with us, shooting a footage for a music documentary. He and I got together around the end of 91, 92, well, 91, and began working on this, pulling the footage together to make a music documentary. And, we've completed it. It came out in 1992, played on Marae TV1. And I wrote 2 songs for that. One is Solidarity, the other is Movement in Demand. Now Solidarity, I had a few different versions of it. And I had a version with a Curtis Mayfield sample, which is the one that made it onto the soundtrack, made it into the music documentary. But I'd actually done another version as well at the same time without that, which is what I want to play you before I play the new version.
Sure.
And so this is from a cassette. I want to say the original lyrics that I wrote back in 91, these are the same lyrics I'm rapping now in 2022. So that's over 30 years. But these lyrics are the same. I think I may have changed one word in one place or something, but they're the same lyrics. The chorus is a little bit different, but no, that to me is fantastic too. That I don't have to go revising these words in any great way. Although I have revised the words, a rap verse for Waiting, which is a remake from my solo album. But I'm going to play you now some of I just call it the original version because this is the one without the Curtis Mayfield sample. And there's a little glitch on this because I got it off a cassette. But
so this was like the demo, or
this is the demo, and didn't do anything with it. Haven't done anything with it until now for the new album. So, but I want to play this so you can hear how close to one another they are.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Right, here we go.
It's solidarity time. Clear it now, kick it in the unity, clarity, and this rhyme.
There's that glitch.
You got to understand, it's the real. Coming from the left, I'm in solidarity. Coming from the right, we're sitting fighting to be free. Coming from the right, we're fighting solidarity. Coming from the right, we're sitting fighting to be free.
What did you record the song?
So
what did you record the song?
Ensonic EPS 16 plus. Yeah, keyboard. Which is a keyboard that's become famous because RZA uses that keyboard in the Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah, well, one of the things that he's used.
Doing something, it ain't nothing, it's got until we're striving for unity and peace. The devil's skinny wants us to serve us, but teach we have to be taught, so we'll get wise and we won't be caught. Solidarity time.
Yeah, pull that down. Yeah, we'll go to how it came out.
Yeah. Good to hear that, and that will hear the version of the new album.
Yeah.
It's solidarity time. Come on now, kick it in the unity time. Kill disparity with clarity in this rhyme. Kill the nation brought by the imperialists. We got to understand. It's the real case. Coming there like the money solidarity, man. We're dancing with the fight, man. We're fighting to be free. Coming there like the money solidarity, man. We're keeping up the fight, man. We're fighting to be free. Coming there like the money solidarity, man. We're dancing with the fight, man. We're fighting to be free. Coming there like the money solidarity, man. We're keeping up the fight, man. We're fighting to be free. One nation identity, crucially necessary for our unity. We'll strive to be, cause we're created to be people, strong culture, humanity. Come and realize that it's worldwide in the fact swimming so wild, we're striving for unity and peace. The devil's scheming and once out, search to see. So deep, we have to be taught. So get wise, cause the struggle is fraught. Solidarity time. Solidarity time. Solidarity time. Our thoughts will be of our own heart. What we have to do is we have to start to get that good that was forced out of our culture. So we gotta get out of this way. The day, the play, we got working on us. Gotta get together and kick up the fuss. Solidarity. Gotta get together and kick up the fuss. Solidarity. But first, to get out of this fratricide, blood fight, blood, I mean you must decide. The overall struggle for justice and peace is the utmost, the ultimate achievement. Yet some seem being on destruction. You must grow up and out of this reaction. True satisfaction will only come from knowing you have to the struggle. You're not slow enough. Coming there, like the money, solidarity, man. We're constant with the fight, we say we're fighting to be free. Coming there, like the money, solidarity, man. We're keeping up the fight, we say we're fighting to be free. Coming there, like the money, solidarity, man. We're constant with the fight, we say we're fighting to be free. Coming there, like the money, solidarity. Take the righteous morals of those who came before you. Don't roll with the devil, cause there's no after. Wake up and realize true dignity. State the fact of true solidarity. Come together in high humanity. You got to overstand solidarity.
Solidarity, two versions, 30 years apart, aren't they?
Yeah. It got sped up, huh?
It got sped up and it got even funkier. And there's a bass line there, which you were saying is actually played on a keyboard.
Yes. So I played that bass line and just, fingers on keys. And I had to say myself when I listened to it, man, that sounds like someone's a real bass player is playing it. But hey, I am a real bass player. But yeah, that came together quick, actually, that version there, because I already had the original version. I was saying, I'm going to stick to the same structure. Like, it's not 8 bars of this and 4 bars of that, 16 of this. There's different kind of bars going on in there, the shorter verses than other verses. And
yeah, it's unpredictable. Yeah,
and that's why, with the keyboards, and I've got some stuff going on with the keyboards, I just mucked around with the tone wheel, and got this going on. I was like, that's cool. How it just rises up and then sort of fizzes out, and then and then I took that to Ricky Gooch, just with a click track. He had the music, and says, "Yeah, man, need the funk for this."
Well,
and he brought it.
Ricky brought the funk.
Yeah.
Hey, so are you going to be playing any of these things live? Are you going to be going out and doing any gigs?
Yeah. We're at Moon Bar on June the 24th, and so we're going to be playing in Auckland the night before, June the 23rd, at Wine Cellar.
Oh, yeah.
And, those are the 2 album release gigs. And now I'm figuring out, how we're going to play all of these. Because of the electronic bits, I can probably get them, but then playing along to them at the same time, I don't know if it should be so strict or can be. We're not even going to have that many practices. Jeff lives in Auckland, as does Earl. Ricky Gooch has always got 10 other bands he's playing for. And I want to get all 3 drummers in to play the songs they played. And, that may be... Ricky's already told me he's already got a gig. And I'm like, if you got a gig, you got a gig. Don't go, I respect musicians for that, and other musicians to say, can that gig with them? We got a gig. We'll pay you more or something. Because most musicians know you ain't getting paid much. Without a posse gig, it depends who comes through the door. And that's why I love the musicians I work with. No one's stressed out, and it's the music that we love pulls us together to do these gigs. So,
do you know who the band's going to be yet for these gigs?
Well, definitely my brother on bass, me on guitar, and then I'll probably play keyboards in some places. And Ahure has been playing keyboards, so I want to pull her in.
That's the family band.
Yeah, but she might not want to do it. But I did see Leo Cockheney walking down the road the other day and says, "Hey man, I got a get you for some gigs." He's like, "Yeah, cool," you know. I'm like, yeah, so I get it him. But he's another musician that's like playing with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know, hey, it's good. But so I've got to be able to get him for those 2 nights. Oh, I don't know, but Ruben is good and Rudy Bam Bam's good for drums here. Earl's good for drums in Auckland. And then I'll get Earl to come here. So
you got at least 2 drummers.
Yeah, at least 2 drummers. And I've said to Earl and Rudy, I says, you know, you can just play something else when you're not drumming on that particular song.
Yeah.
Like, or you can play your drums with that.
Yeah.
You know, 2 drummers. Yeah. And Jeff on horn. Yeah. And that's about us.
Yeah.
We don't need to.
That sounds like plenty.
Yeah, it is. That's all that's needed.
Yeah.
And it's yet to be seen how I shall get the electronics in there. And because one song in particular, HAU, the album title track, right now I'm learning to play that on guitar. I've been playing the chords for this song forever. For decades, and I've just loved the chord sequence. It repeats, and I just love it.
I love the song. I was going to say it reminds me. It reminds me a little of Stevie Wonder or something. You know, it's got that kind of vibe. It's like a real soul song. You know,
it's not in time. I played this piano chords into Reason, and I did it without a click. But then I had these drums going on, which weren't actually clicking on time with the music. The chords come in a step late. It's not all glued together properly. And I'm like, this is it. This is how it's got a sound. I've never heard something that sounds sort of disjointed, but in there. Yeah. And so now, like I pulled in Earl, I says, right, I'm going to get rid of these programmed drums. And I want you to drum these. And, you know, he got it. And I was like, wow, yeah, champion. Yeah, I knew you'd get it. Because I was like, it's a bit, you got to hold back just a little fraction of a second of, you know, anyone listening to the song go, yeah, that's musician talk, whatever. I don't know what. It sounds all right. Yeah. But, so, yeah, he nailed that. But now for live, I'm thinking I want to play guitar. So for the last few nights, I'm thinking I'm playing it with guitar. And playing those chords. And it's really difficult for me to actually play the piano and as I've played it on there and sing, because I've sang it, I've came at it singing with without an instrument in front of me.
Sure. And
just sang where I felt like I wanted to put the words, and it had to be kind of disjointed, not as like bang on the one or you know, so this is the most difficult song I've done, that in terms of actually playing it as it is on the record.
Yeah. Well, maybe just
to be able to do.
Maybe it's just going to be another version. You know, it's going to be the guitar version, and it'll have its own feel. And the other thing about the version on the record is the violin plays quite an important part there too. Yeah,
with the violin, I mean, I played that violin on a keyboard, and then I pulled in Shona. I says, yeah, right, here's the violin. Here's how it goes. She's like, oh, yeah. And then she played it. She's like, you know, it's for the violin, there's a movement of the arm that goes down. I was like, yeah. You know? And then up, and she's got to get the right way to play that. So she played it slightly different than I played it on the keyboard, because I wanted it exactly the same. And I says, oh, no, I understand that. It's an instrument, and I'm just playing goddamn keys here.
Yeah.
And
can't do all those things.
I can do it all on a keyboard, but it's not. That's not the realness. It'll sound more real when you're playing it, because a violinist wouldn't play it like that. But it's damn near very close. And then she added some other bits in. Yeah, Well, this is a real fantastic song for me. Just, I could cry listening to it. And when I just hear it, I'm just, wow, I did that. I think
this is one of the ones that's been maybe 17 years in the making.
Yeah, yes, also. And I think it, I feel like saying, well, this is my best work yet thus far, this song. And then I think, I don't know, is it?
Well, other people, I guess, will have their opinions, but I love this track. I think it's, I can see why you've used this as the title song. It's, I don't know, it sums up something.
And the other thing about the title, HAU, breath.
Yes.
Well, everyone's been suffering by lack thereof, having to wear masks for the last, 2 years and everything, and just, breath. And it's just, wow, yeah, the cover, the artwork, and it all just comes together fantastically.
Yeah.
And I've dedicated this album to my mother because my mother's helped us through the years. And she moved on. She's moved on now. And it ends, like I had programmed this into Reason, but I was like, I'm taking most of that out. I'm going to play my piano. So I played real piano on it. And at the end of it, there's just some notes that I play on the end of it. And I'm like, these are notes to my mother. Because I'd play her this song. She would have helped me out with money for this album, funded me for things, which she's done, but I pay her back. And so it's
Did she get to hear this one?
No. And
so it's in her memory.
Yeah, but I've dedicated the whole album to my mother's, dedicated to her and her memory.
Yeah.
But, HAU, yes.
Well, I think we should hear that track.
Take some time to feel what it is all alone in a lifetime. Gonna keep you going on, moving on, moving on. I just turned 55, 25, 65, 95, still alive in this lifetime. I just turned 10 and 5, 35, 45, 85, 105. Living life for real. Breathe it in. It's just the air. It's gonna keep moving on. And a grooving,
Ho, it's the title track from the new Upper Hut Posse album, and it's a beautiful song. And so much detail in it, all these little parts, those little piano parts at the end, that high, I think it's a soprano saxophone that Jeff Henderson's playing. And
I love that bit that he brought to the song, Jeff, that little bit.
It's like a little bird up there somewhere, and a beautiful lyric too. It's a song that took quite a while to bring together.
Yeah,
what came first?
Those piano chords came first. Yeah, I pieced those together inside the program Reason, and there's more. There was a other intro bit that I had, which I've done away with for the song here. Just seemed to be, I don't need that. And musically, the whole middle bit came later. I didn't really have anything figured for that. So there's the whole secret, the middle bit with the free jazz drumming, and that's me and the bongos. And yeah. And those chords, I didn't actually have the chords when the drumming went down. I said, just drum this long to Earl, and bang, and then I'm going to come back in with these chords, and I'm going to finish the song. So then I put in those chords and just had to have that looseness again. Like, they're not coming in on the 1 or the 1 and 3 or anything. That's just, I just want to hit them in at funny points. So and then I got my little sort of guitar solo bit when we come out of that, and it's just. Yeah, I'm blown away by it, it just freaks me out. And the lyrics took for I didn't know where to go with the lyrics. Again, the music, I could just listen to that music, that same sequence over and over. And
so you had all of that first before you'd written a single word for this one?
Yeah, I hadn't done anything.
Where did the lyric come from? When did it finally come to you?
Yeah, the lyrics are a lot more recent, probably in the last 2 years. And man, I just wanted to be real positive on this. But I say I'm real positive about all my lyrics, man, and songs. But yeah, or just actually speak in a different way to people. I guess that's what it was. That makes it different for me. This song sound different than the others.
Yeah, I was thinking if I played this to someone and said, "Who's this?" I don't think many of them would say, "Oh, that's Upper Posse." I think it'll take people by surprise, this one. And
I had lyrical ideas in there, which I don't know. I just found a place for them. Like in my lifetime, I was using that as a line. I was thinking, I'm tired of people saying, it's going to happen. Not in my lifetime. A lot of activists say it, change, man, change is going to come, but, not in my lifetime, maybe in my kid's lifetime, or, But I'm thinking, man, I'm sick of hearing that nonsense. It's going to happen in my lifetime. So I say that in the song. I'm saying, because I'm just going to say that. Whether it does or not, I'm saying it's going to. Well, lyrics have to say that. You have to take people there.
Yeah.
With the lyric.
It's a much more positive statement if you say that. It's going to happen in my lifetime.
Yeah. That and the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the use? What's the use if it's not the truth?
Oh, that's a nice line, because it's got a sort of half rhyme, It's
yeah. And I just when I was working on the song, this is a lyric that I'd carried around, just that. What's the use if it's not the truth? Am I gonna get more lyrics coming to me for that particular line? No. Nothing came, and I didn't force it. I didn't even try to write anything around that. I just sort of, something comes, it will come, I'll wake up, that's what it was. There it is. you know, and nothing did. So I just put that line in as it is. And what's the use if it's not the truth?
It just floats.
Because it's just bang, that's there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I seriously know that is the truth. What is the use of it if it ain't it?
Yeah.
In a world where we are surrounded by untruths, lies, fallacy, and just...
Hey, well, I don't know how much more time we've got here, but we might get another song or two in, eh?
Probably one.
Well, the one I wanted to ask you about and maybe hear is, well, it's kind of the finale, I think, of it, the song Waiting, which is, it's another one of the ska-type songs, although I think... Who's playing the drums on this one?
Ricky.
I think this is Ricky.
Ricky's on this one,
in his ska mode. But it's got this... It's almost like a carnival flavour to it with the horns on this, I think. And Brannigan Carr is on this one as well. Yeah,
well, Brannigan was working at this radio station here for many years. He's not at the moment. And I think it was in 2018. And, you know, we got the award. He's like, man, everyone's on there. Man, when am I going to guest on a song? He said something like that. And I went, yeah, all right, yeah. I got you in mind now. And, yeah, so when it came for this song, and I thought, man, that's it. I want to put in Brannigan. He's got the right flavour, just who he is. The singing and that, he's the right person to sing this with, and I was going to get him to sing it. And I says, Brannigan, yeah, you sing this song. And he's like, why don't we do a duet? And I was like, duet? God damn. I hadn't thought of that at all. You know, and I'm thinking of duets. Who is that? You know, I'm thinking, what is Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney? What was the song? You know, they did a song.
Yeah, Girl Is Mine.
The Girl Is Mine, you know, and duets. I'm thinking, a duet? Damn. I haven't heard of any male duet in this country. Maybe they were done way earlier, so I was like, well, that's enough reason for it to be done. So, yeah, I said, yeah, let's do it. I don't know how we'll do it. I guess I'll just sing the whole thing, and then you sing the whole thing, or see how it goes. And, you know, we managed to do it. I actually recorded him here, just in the room next door. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's just good working with him, and he just added... the lines, because this song is from my 2000 album, my first solo album called Te Kupu.
Yeah.
Waiting. And, you know, it had programmed drums. It did have some live guitar, programmed bass, that song. And I was always like, I want to remake this song one day. I felt that then. And so for this album, I was like, yeah, remaking this song for sure. Yeah. And, you know, I'm playing the bass on it and the piano. And I actually love that I've played the bass on this, because I got to actually stretch my bass playing out a little bit. You know, at the start, you know, I'm climbing it up a bit here and there and doing a few things I didn't expect to do. And, yeah, that's why it's come out just sounding so great. But, yeah.
And it's got all those horns on it, too. Who's playing on this? Is this Jeff Henderson?
Jeff, me, man. Yeah,
I don't know. It sounds like a street parade, you know.
Nigel Patterson will be on there.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
there's Chris Fox on it, I think. Yeah, if there's trombone on it, I haven't... See, there's all these songs. I need to have actually more of the credits in front of me.
I haven't got them here either, but we'll hear it when we hear it. Well, look, shall we play this one for people?
Yeah.
I might, yeah.
You know what? I'll let you go, because you've got to step out, you're saying. So what I'm going to do is I'll play this, and then straight after it, I'm going to play Waiting Dub. Because
we were going to talk about that, because there's a whole set of dub mixes of these tracks, which will come with the vinyl as well. Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
And did you do those dub mixes?
Yes, I've done these dub mixes.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, man, very pleased with myself.
You must have had fun doing that.
Oh, yeah, great fun.
Did you strip them all back and then build them up again, or what was your approach?
Well, man. the approach. I'm just thinking in my head, because I had to. I put it through a disc. I mixed it through a disc.
Yeah.
So I had to plug in my delay devices through the disc, and then back in, and then record back into the computer. But when you do that, you're knocking out other instruments, and they're not getting enough. So I had to do that, and then I had to pull up the other mix. Then I had to turn up bits and pieces on here and there, and then I went out through that mix again. It went. It wasn't no straightforward mixing,
Sure.
but I mixed the whole album, so I was very, knew where everything was. But I was like, I can't wait to do these dubs because I want to do the dubs, and
that was the last thing you did?
Yeah.
Once
dubs.
you got the whole album finished, then you did these dub mixes.
Yeah, doing these dub mixes, and fantastic, because I feel, that I'm doing some things with these dub mixes that I haven't heard anyone do before, and King Tubby, Scientist, of course, they're the masters, but I didn't want to do a mix that sounded like King Tubby had done it, or like I'm trying to be King Tubby, because King Tubby he's the master. We know that, but forever people do dub mixes trying to sound like him, trying to use all those tricks. I'm saying I'm not. No, I want to do some other things, and it was a mix of off-board equipment and also in the program using the Sound Toys delays in there.
Yeah,
and so it was.
They're a lot of fun.
Boy, yeah. And it was just a joy to do and a joy to listen to these dub versions. So,
yeah. Well, look, I'm looking forward to hearing the first version of Waiting. Well, the version that finishes the album, and then the dub version that follows it. And it's been great talking to you about all this and hearing more about how this all came together, the long genesis of this album. But it's, as you say, it's an album for the ages. It's people are going to discover this at different times. They're not going to say, "Oh, that sounds very 2022." It's a timeless record. Some of it could have been made a long time ago. Some of it's still coming from the future, I think. So
yeah. That's what I like.
It's great to hear it, and I'm going to be enjoying it for a long time. Thanks so much for having us on your program.
Thanks for coming in and doing this show here. Yeah, ki ngā kai whakarongo, kānui te mihi ki a koutou katoa. So going out with the show with Waiting from HAU and also Waiting Dub.
Oh, I've been told women are dangerous. Only the wise can show. Oh, yeah. Only the wise can show. Drifters will come and go. Oh, I've been told all men are dangerous. Tell you, they were only the wise can show. Only the wise can show. Drifters will come and go. Up and down. Righteous never go weary. Now's the time to prove your worth. It's a mistake, boy. To be waiting. Don't be waiting on the journey, don't be waiting. Waiting on the joy. That's already here. Waiting for joy of our heavenly blessed procrastination, a big excuse for all sorts of terror and religion's names. It's out, but they get foul and plain and stain. you live majestically with a big heart for you and the same for me. Put them on the kit and a day on the tika. Hey, on the Bible, there's more. Yes, I have seen die. In the shining eyes. Deceived by faith. Never shown. Oh, yes. Disregard most high. Broken promises they can't deny. The righteous never grow weary. Now's the time to prove all of your words. Yeah. It's a mistake, boy. Don't be waiting on no joy. Don't be waiting. Waiting on the joy that's already here. Waiting on a joy that's already here. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Waiting on a joy that's already here. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Waiting on a joy that's already waiting on the joy that's already here. Oh, I've been told all men are dangerous. Only the wise can show. Oh, yeah. Only the wise can show. Drifters will come and go.
Bottom line, like I said, deal with freedom, justice, equality.
I'm a warrior with knowledge of the hand. No justice in the courtroom of the white man.
For the cause of my people's freedom.
Te Kupu, not Te Kupu. Upoko, tika.